Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me again this weekend. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what happened over the last week and what I think is going to happen over the next week. Today, in today's video, I want to cover the Qs, I want to cover spiders, and also touch on Bitcoin. So last week we had that big dump on Monday with, with tech and with the Facebook crash and everything. I was short heading into the week, but I actually saw some forecasts on Time Trades that indicated that dump may continue. So I did not take profits when I should have, frankly, on Monday. And that's a big learning for me, is to do a better job on taking profits when I've got that opportunity, and don't get distracted by the Time Trades forecast. It is, after all, just a forecast and just some probabilities to try to give me an edge. So I didn't make the money I should have made last week, to be honest. But that's frankly a learning for me, and I want to share that with you. And hopefully some of you won't make the same mistake that I did, as you have some successful trades in front of you. Okay, so we're looking at the Qs, and the way my chart's configured right now, I've got Gann Waves turned on. So that's the blue and yellow stripes, vertical stripes there. And those indicate lunar cycles. And we also have 24 lines on. Those are the orange horizontal lines. And we have Mercury, the green wavy lines. Now, those of you that follow astrology know that Mercury is retrograde right now. So retrograde means that it appears to be moving backwards in the sky. Of course, it isn't really moving backwards in the sky. It's just the relative position of Earth and Mercury makes it look that way. So what we're seeing in the forecast for next week is a probability of some down moves in the Qs during this blue Gann wave period, and coinciding with late in the Mercury retrograde cycle. And one of the things I like to do with indexes is I like to cross-reference those with other indexes. So this is kind of a 19% probability, 22% probability. It's not super confident. And so let's go over and take a look at XLK. That is the S&P 500 Technology Sector Index. And we can see here with XLK that we've got a much more confident forecast of some down days this coming week. Now, this is somewhat, well, I won't say somewhat, but we do need to also be aware that there's some pivot highs coming up the following week, October 19th. So we're getting pretty late in this cycle here for bearish moves, and it's important not to over rotate on the bearish side. So I guess what I'm seeing is maybe one last wave down for this bearish cycle that's going to end near the peak Mercury retrograde. And then I expect to see prices start to move up a little bit more. Okay, so let's go and take a look at spiders, because that also kind of confirms this thesis. So we can take a look at SPY here. And again, we've got Mercury retrograde, and we've got the Gann waves, and we've got, some relatively high probabilities of 5-day declines coming up for the period between October 11th and 15th. So pretty much during this period, it looks like odds are prices are going down in spiders and Qs and tech. So I continue to be positioned for that, but I'm going to be doing a better job in taking profits and exiting those positions, and positioning for a long trade starting late in October. Now, one of the things I like to do with time trades is I like to go and take a look at historical patterns of what's happened in previous Mercury retrograde cycle. So let's just do that quick scan here. And we can see here how in the last retrograde cycle in June of this year, there was a dump late in the retrograde cycle. And I'm saying late because it's close to where this green wave starts to turn up again. Okay, so that's a late dump there. Okay, in the retrograde cycle before that, we saw a dump pretty much in February here, but then it continued to dump even as Mercury went direct. So I'm going to shrink again. There we go. And back in October, this one happened to match the retrograde cycle almost exactly, with the dump starting on the last day. It was moving direct, and the dump ending almost the day before it resumed moving direct. And here we are in June of 2020. And here the dump started just before the retrograde cycle started, and then it ended just before the retrograde cycle ended. And then, of course, the big daddy over here is the COVID crash in February and March of 2020. And that started with the Mercury retrograde cycle, but it just kept on going right through to March 23rd. And what's interesting about that is that March 23rd low coincided exactly with a peak on the light blue short-term wave here. So if I turn on short-term waves, look at light blue, this is the peak value here, and that coincided exactly with the COVID low. So what this means is that you can also use major peaks and lows in some of the short-term waves to also help with your timing. Okay, so that's a quick survey of Mercury retrograde and some of its effect on price. I'm just going to clean this chart up here a little bit, make it a little easier to read. Let's get rid of that. Okay. All right. So the other thing too that I notice about this is there's been a change in tone in the spiders. Okay, so when I say change of tone, what that means is I'm looking for patterns of behavior in the Gann waves. So the last blue Gann wave was flat to down, and it ended, of course, very strongly down on the first day after the end of the blue Gann wave. And then the blue Gann wave prior to that was down, but the blue Gann wave prior to that one in July was up. So there's been a change of tone surrounding this September high here on September 2nd. And this is another thing I look for that gives me confidence in that bearish stance heading into next week, is that that pattern. And I always put more weight, I assign more weight in my head to what's happening recently as opposed to what happened, maybe months ago. So the recent pattern during the blue Gann wave has been down, and that's also reflected in the forecast. So that makes me more confident in a bearish stance heading into next week. So that's spiders and also Qs. And let's take a look at Apple, because that's the single biggest component of the Qs. And again, this is also confirming that interpretation with a 41% probability of a 1 standard deviation down move over the last 5 days. Okay, so that's planned for Monday, or forecast for Monday, October 11th. So let's get to Bitcoin. And what we're seeing on Bitcoin here is a forecast of a few 1 standard deviation up days coming up. Now, I had tweeted out that the common pattern of Venus and South Node was coming up. And this is usually a reliable indicator of dumps. So you can see here, Venus is the blue line. The South Node is the white line, and these locations in space have been converted to price just using a simple formula. And where they cross, it indicates where Venus and the South Node are conjunct or at the same location in space. And if you just drag your mouse over and look at the days where what happens when these two lines cross? Well, September 20th, that's pretty healthy dump. August 31st was the day after a fair size dump. Over here, we've got August 11th, minor down day. I wouldn't call it a dump by any stretch. July 23rd was actually an up day. Go back some more, and July 4th, there was a pivot with a down day happening on July 5th. Keep going back, and June 14th was another pivot, and then started a 4-day down move. So odds are that blue crossing white, so Venus conjunct the South Node, indicates a down day. So far today, we have not seen that, and price had shown up more in altcoins than in Bitcoin, and that's okay. Again, these are probabilities. These are not guarantees. So what we're trying to do is put the odds on our side with observations like this. But the other thing I want to point out, and this is super interesting, is this cluster of 2 standard deviation up days. So if you want to know what that means, a 2 standard deviation move up over 5 days in Bitcoin is 20%. Okay, so this is a massive pump, and this is starting to appear in the forecast for the end of October, early November. All right, so because these are calculated based on the last 5 trading days, I would encourage you to get positioned for this 5 trading days prior, around October 25th, 26th. And the other thing is that you see this kind of hollow here in the update predictions. So this, often what I found happen is price, even though there's no forecast price declines up here, often price will decline into these hollows because there's a lack of upward pressure, there's a lack of upward momentum. So this is a great opportunity to get positioned for this forecast 2 standard deviation pump coming up at the end of the month. And another reason why I like this is this also aligns with a forecast developed by my friends Oz Industries and Nissan Nakamoto on Twitter. And if you haven't followed these guys, you should definitely follow them. They use a different approach, one that's not used by time trades, and one that's indicating this end of October as a pivotal time frame, and likely to initiate a new bull run on Bitcoin. So there's still some ambiguity in the forecast. In a perfect world, we'd see these updates continue into the pivot highs over here and over here, but we don't. So there's a little bit of ambiguity here. It's not, the crystal ball isn't 100% clear. But what we are seeing indicates that it's a good time to get positioned for a bull run in Bitcoin in the last week of October. All right, so that's it for me. I wish you all a good week of trading, and trade safe, manage risk, and take those profits. Thanks. Bye.